Hello and welcome back to OldSoulPodcast. This is Bree, that's spelled B-R-E-I. Thank you so much. I wanted to speak about a film titled Train to Busan. This film was released in 2016. It's a film that I've seen a handful of times, maybe a little more than that. And I think the last time I saw it was probably about 4 months ago, relatively. What sparked this interest in wanting to speak and have a sort of discourse commentary / also review about this film is that I saw that it was originally on Netflix when I watched it at the time, about 4 months ago with my younger brother. And then it's on another streaming service called Viki that I watch a lot of Korean drama on, and Korean movies, South Korean specifically. So yeah, I sort of wanted to speak about how do I say this? Symbolism, maybe not so much symbolism, but deeper concepts that I noticed in the film that I maybe brushed over the first few times that I watched, which is normal when you first watch a film. It's sort of everything getting thrown at you at once, especially when it's in the horror thriller genre. I would classify this film more as a thriller, but that's sort of my personal bias because I'm not really a big fan of horror films, and when I do watch them, they have to be sort of less about exorcisms and spirits, and that to me is like scary. But when we talk about maybe like crime, murder mystery, action, something of that sort, it's a little more easy on the palate for me. But in my personal preference, I think that I would consider this to be under the thriller genre, just to give you a feel for what you would encounter if you watched the film. But again, it might waver depending on what you can deal with and what you can't deal with. So because this is a zombie movie, I did want to just touch on how the zombies are in this film, because it does seem like a lot of films do it differently. What is it, The Walking Dead, where I think they're a lot slower. World War Z, I think they're a lot faster in terms of their movements and just, the threat of them. Obviously, even if they are slow, they're still going to be a threat because they're like the living dead, but it does differ. In this film specifically, they're fast-paced, they're scary as hell, just like they always are. I think, and I will link some reviews that I skimmed over or did read thoroughly that had some ideas that I also am branching off of. And one of them mentioned that the zombies seem to react more to movement and not so much like having great vision. And then in the film you see how the passengers sort of put newspaper or some sort of covering over the doors to not be viewed by the zombies. And there's even a scene when they're moving from different carts, and I think they move towards the luggage at the top when they're trying to get from one end of the train to the other, which will make sense when you watch the film. And I don't remember if they are in the dark for a second or not, but that does sort of touch on their movements and how these zombies react as well. And there's a lot of scenes where they're at like a train station and in one of their stops that are supposed to be safe, and then they find out it's like not safe. You see how quickly they react and how aggressive they can be and how strong they are, especially in groups, in crowds. So that's just a little context on that. I am not going to do a full, like, from beginning to end summary, but I just want to sort of throw out ideas and create a discourse, and feel free to add your opinions in your comments or just, out loud as you're listening. I would love to sort of have a discussion about the film, and I love when people bring up new ideas or new concepts or just shots or scenes in the film that I didn't really hone in on or notice at all. It's just the beauty of speaking about film. So this story does go off of the perspective of a father-daughter dynamic. I'm going to refer to them as like the two main characters and father and daughter, mostly because I don't want to butcher their names and the pronunciation. I'm really particular about people pronouncing my name correctly and writing my name correctly, and I'm also really bad with names. If someone isn't in my face like telling me how to pronounce it, I'm really bad at it. But when someone is there and they tell me, I grasp it really quickly. But I don't necessarily really trust Google to translate it 100%, and I don't want to butcher it because names are very important and I just don't want to be rude. So I'm just gonna sort of give descriptors. It's sort of how my mind works. So there's a briefing. The father-daughter duo we see at the beginning of the film are the two main characters that we follow throughout the entirety of the film, although we do get snippets of different perspectives later in the film and, well, I guess throughout the film. The father and daughter are not very close. So the dad seems to be a workaholic. He doesn't really seem to be super close to his daughter, although we do see how much he really does love his daughter and cares about her. And I think that's something that parents maybe do have an issue with balancing a lot of the time, because life is already hard and it's already hard to be an adult. And so having a child and having to give them attention, but also having to work, depending on what job. I don't know what that's like personally. I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine how difficult that is. I'm just giving the dad a little benefit of the doubt. But he does seem a little greedy, a little selfish, but it does seem that he likes his daughter. He seems to make a decent income based off of how they set them up when they show us the scene of them in the house, and he like buys his daughter a gift that she already has. And she's there with her grandmother, but she misses her mom, and it seems like the dad and the mom aren't on good terms. I don't think the mom's even like living there anymore, hence the concept and the reason why they go to Busan. I think the parents are divorced or separated or whatever, and his daughter really wants to go to Busan to be with her mother, and she sort of begs him at this point, and eventually he gives in. When she finally gets his attention, right? She just wants to go to her mom at this point. And so this is the whole reason why they end up on the train to Busan. I do want to note now, in the beginning of the film, before they introduce the characters, they show us this deer or this animal getting hit by a car, and then it coming back to life, and that's sort of our little sneak peek, or otherwise foreshadowing, even though we know going in this is going to be a zombie movie, but that there's something that's spreading in this sort of field grass-like area. Maybe it's more of a rural area. It seems like it might be near a factory or somewhere far away. It doesn't seem like it's in the city, or at least not in the heart of the city when we see this sort of setting, this deer getting hit. And I wanted to touch on this because there's something that I questioned, and I don't know if other people remember this or not. Like I said, it's been like 4 months since I've seen the film. I do understand a lot of things about it and know the film, but of course I could misinterpret or get some quotes wrong or whatever. But I think it's insinuated that the father might have worked or is working for the company that is responsible for this outbreak. Is that something that's completely just wrong, or did other people notice that? Because there are moments throughout the film where the father is speaking to his coworker or assistant, and they're sort of giving each other updates on what's going on, and I don't know if that's because he's in Busan or he's just in another part of the city and it's really bad there specifically, but that's how the dad sort of knows, like, he gets his updates from his assistant and coworker until obviously they either lose signal or something happens to that assistant or coworker and they no longer are speaking at some point in the film. And I just wondered if that's something that is completely out of nowhere, and I don't know why I'm thinking about that, or if that's actually a connection. But anyway, it's weird, and either way, it starts with something and it spreads. And the reason why the train even gets infected in the first place, sorry about that noise, the reason why the train even gets any infections in the first place. And when I say infections, I just mean like someone gets there and on the train at the last second past the conductor or whoever is in charge of letting people on the train, and I think at the moment that they get on, they had just gotten infected, and it seems like the bites react pretty quickly. They got on the train, and then obviously once they're already on the train, they turn, and then that's how it starts to spread on the train, and we get another snippet of that. Which again, I really like how the film jumps from these minor moments of different perspectives and how they all sort of intertwine. And I think the reason why I like this so much is I feel like that's so accurate to how life really is. As much as some people who might be more narcissistic and selfish, capitalist, whatever, we all really do affect one another, whether we know it or not. And I think the difference is that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative example or discussion about this, but I do feel like oftentimes, you know, when you skip someone in the line or you make someone's coffee wrong or whatever, the difference is that some people will genuinely feel bad or, you know, correct their mistakes because what else can they do? It's already happened. But then other people will literally intentionally go out of their way to hurt other people or won't give a damn, right? And I just think this film shows a domino effect of how much we really do affect one another, and it's so relevant right now with everything going on with the virus and like COVID. I just thought that was super interesting, and the concept of the zombie apocalypse and how it spreads, and it's just a whole thing. And another reason why I want to touch base on that is because we see in the film with these other perspectives that are short snippets but still pretty happening pretty often. We have the perspective of this sort of baseball player and his friend, or maybe possible love interest, girlfriend. They're students. I think they're either high school or college students. And then we have these two older sisters who are on the train. We have the father-daughter dynamic, and they are consistently shown throughout the film. We are very much following them, but sometimes it does focus in and branches off on these other characters. There's this couple who are expecting a baby, and the dad's really buff and muscular, but seems really sweet, and the mom is also super helpful. And oh my god, I can't imagine like a zombie apocalypse and being pregnant. It's just so scary. And then there's a guy who I think he might be homeless, and like you see how people treat him at first, but he actually ends up saving like lives, and he seems like a genuinely interesting character. I wish we had more from him even. And there's this before that there's a conductor as well. He does show up quite a bit in there. Then we have the villain, the main obvious villain. He's like greedy, narcissistic, he does whatever he wants, he doesn't care who he affects, and he actually really does fuck up so many people's lives. Like, he essentially murders people in this film. Okay, you're gonna see it, and I get so pissed every time. It doesn't matter how many times I watch this film, I get so angry. I literally could punch the screen. I get so mad at this guy. And it's even more upsetting because you find that if he wasn't even a character in this film, there would still be the fear with the zombies and the fear of death, and then you're on this like enclosed space of a train, and there's an outbreak on the train. It's insane. And then outside it's infected too, so like what the fuck do you do? But this guy, if he was literally taken out of the equation, there would be so many lives that weren't lost, or at least not as quickly and as brutally. Fuck him. He literally fucks up the ending. Don't get me wrong, there's a hopeful ending, and it's really sweet, and it makes me cry. And yeah, we get a really good pacing throughout the film and character development that really makes that ending worthwhile, and it earns it, okay, in the end. But yeah, fuck this guy. You're gonna know who he is, and he's the clear villain. There isn't really a hero in the film. I don't want to say that they make the dad the hero or the passengers, but you do see this dynamic of morality and ethics, and this again is something that is, I guess we have like a set rule of what's morally right and wrong and whatever, but I think if you take it case by case, everyone is different and they're all going to have different values and morals. So you putting your morals and values on other people doesn't really mean anything if they don't give a fuck about that. And you see that in this film, and that's why I wanted to note that specifically. But I do see a lot of character development in such a short amount of time with all this stuff going on. It's so well done. And all these characters band together to essentially save their lives, but they also save each other. And they learn from this. And I mean, how can you not in this situation, right? But you do see other characters who don't learn from this. They get selfish. They risk other people's lives to save their own, which who can say that they know exactly what they would do during a zombie apocalypse? You might go into shock. You might have anxiety. Yeah, but some people are just inherently not good. And then what does being good even mean? And what is it to be a human? What is human? Like, what is this? Is this a simulation? Is this even real? Now I'm getting into my weird conspiracy theories and shit. But, I mean, when you think about it, these are just constructs that we've somehow created similar to things that are like rules and laws that aren't always essentially correct, but because they've been forced upon us and set in stone, even if they were made in like the fucking 1800s, just because it's like law, it's considered to be the right way, which we know is not true. I mean, there was literally laws against like interracial marriage and like clearly very racist laws, specifically for America. So we know that's up for debate, and obviously just because something is said to be right or wrong or in the law, it doesn't necessarily mean it is. But I do think this film really does touch on that idea, the moral and the ethical aspects, and maybe a lot of films do, but I think this one, when you take it from that viewpoint, you do really delve in and you're able to see how that would work in this film. And yeah, I just wanted to do a quick discourse commentary on Train to Busan. I think that you should watch this film. I don't think you're going to regret it. It is in Korean, so you will have to read subtitles if you're not fluent in Korean or you don't know any Korean. You might have to watch it a few times to catch some of these things that I brought up. Maybe not. Maybe you'll find something that I don't remember. I don't think it's super graphic. I mean, it's not as graphic as films like... what's the most graphic film I've seen lately? I'm trying to make a correlation to one that's similar, but I don't think it's that graphic. I mean, maybe if you know that you don't like zombies and gore, maybe you shouldn't watch it, or maybe you shouldn't watch it at night. I know that I can't watch stuff like that at night, but it's super good. It really earns that ending. I love the family dynamics. I love stuff like that. And the characters, with the short amount of time that we have in this film, really do feel super grounded and very real. I could picture them in just in person, you know. So, thank you so much, and have a great day.